Alright, listen, this video was supposed to come out in June because in this video I'm only going to be using a team of shiny rainbow Pokemon, so it was going to be dedicated to Pride, but I just got super behind. I'm not going to let that stop me because unlike massive corporations, I don't want to be an ally only 1 month out of the year, so this video is still dedicated to Pride, and all of the ad revenue I generate for the first 30 days of this video being uploaded will be dedicated directly to the Trevor Project. They're a fantastic nonprofit that offers crisis prevention counseling to LGBTQ+ youth amongst other services. This is just me putting my money where my mouth is because I not only want to advocate for change, but I want to actually push for it. We live in 2022 and there is still such a large number of people who are so hateful to their fellow humans because of who they choose to love or who they identify as. And while I will never personally know what that feels like, I just want you to know that if you do, you belong. And please never let anyone make you feel like you don't. If you would also like to donate to the Trevor Project, I will leave the link in the description down below. Okay, happy late Pride. Let's get into the video. It's that time again, baby. Buckle up for your next favorite feature-length film because today we're trying to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Y using only a shiny rainbow team of Pokemon. Quick shout out to John Pokemon 7 for the shiny rainbow inspiration. He's a great guy, a fantastic creator, and you should 100% check out his videos if you haven't. This challenge will offer me a ton of diversity, but once again, that means I will be shiny hunting for every single encounter. But what's more, my team has to contain the exact colors of the rainbow at all times once I have a party of 6. So if my team isn't composed of exactly a red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet Pokemon, and I can't immediately catch a new Pokemon to fill one of those slots, I lose. And with the hardcore Nuzlocke rules and how rare some colors are in shiny Pokemon, this could be touch and go. Also, for the sake of inclusivity, I will allow all purpley and pinky Pokemon to fill the last slot. Before we jump in, if you enjoy these videos, please consider leaving a like, and even though I don't think it's possible anymore because I got so behind on uploads, I would still love to hit 50K on YouTube by my birthday, which is July 31st. Social Blade says we'll hit it in around 70 days, but I'm pretty sure we can get there in the next half hour or so if you all sub. So help me hit that goal if you enjoy what I do. Also, what's your favorite color of shiny Pokemon? For me, I have to go with blue shinies like Nidoking because I think they just look so clean. But there are some gold ones like Fortress that I also really love. Okay, let's do this. We start off this run like we do every Kalos run by talking to the incredibly handsome professor about how magical and French the world we're about to explore is. I make my way to a group of incredibly forgettable rivals, and I'm not really interested in hunting any of the starters because none of them are really... Oh, holy f***, that's a red Chespin. I named this little dude Red Please because I knew he could be red, but I had absolutely no plans of soft resetting for him. I mean, the first encounter shiny is not quite as impressive as you would think, since my grandma who works at Sony gave me a copy of the game with shiny odds boosted to roughly 1 in 100, but still, this is incredibly lucky. Alright, so I guess I'm gonna use this little dude, and I gave him a stupid name thinking that that wouldn't be the case, but with a little bit of magic, I can change his name to Hopper. And as always, these nicknames will have a theme to them, and this one is my current obsession. It's up to you to guess it, so if you know the theme, let me know in the comments. Now, I have to do all the intro nonsense, and normally I just skip this, but this is the first time in all of my runs I've seen Serena run into a shiny, so I just thought that was neat. She sucks though, and she's not gonna use it, but still, pretty neat. In Sandaloon Forest, I run around for an insane amount of time looking for a more orangey than normal rat until I finally find the off-colored Pikachu. I catch her and name her Max, giving me my orange Pokemon, and probably one of the harder colors to find in this game, so I need to be protective of her. I leave the forest and head straight to Route 22 where I once again spend way too much time looking for a shiny, but finally I find this sick looking puppy. Two things: one, I have to stop needing the absolute rarest Pokemon on each route to shine, and two, seriously, this Riolu does not look well. We should get him some help. He is yellow though, and that's all that matters to me, baby, since it gets me one color closer to a completed rainbow. I name him Steve, and then it's back to Route 3 to hunt for a bright green Azurill, which I actually find in just around an hour compared to the other two that took about double that. I catch her and name her Robin, and she actually has huge power, which is an insane ability for a run like this, so I am stoked to use her. With that final encounter, I've caught all of the colors of the rainbow that I can for now, so it's time to prep for the gym. I start by running around like a lunatic until Robin's friendship level is high enough for her to evolve into Meryl, which is actually an incredible upgrade. Then we challenge the gym. gym. Before I get to Viola, I feel like I should explain a few things for the uninitiated. This is a hardcore Nuzlocke, so I can't overlevel past the next gym leader or Elite Four member's ace. I can't use items in battle, and I have to play on set mode. Also, since the Kalos games are on the easier side, and I'll have access to way more Pokemon than I normally would in one of these runs, I will only be using the same number of Pokemon each gym leader uses for fights, and I'm not going to be using any intentional EV training and opting to use rare candies to grind instead. I'm also not allowing any offensive stat boosting moves, so something like Iron Defense is okay because it just raises a defensive stat, but Swords Dance or Agility are no-goes. Also, just for clarity's sake, things like Power Up Punch or Charge Beam will be fine. All of this is on top of standard Nuzlocke rules and the extra rainbow rules I'm playing with, so things could get dicey. Not in this gym though. Viola just has 2 bugs and I have a huge power Robin with rollout. On turn 1, I go for defense curl to double rollout starting damage, and then 2 rollouts later, I am the proud owner of the Creepy Crawly badge. It was an incredibly easy fight. With the first badge under my belt, I unlock the color blue in the very next route, and once again, it is the single rarest Pokemon on the route, so needless to say, this hunt takes a good chunk of time. I mean, honestly, I don't have the footage of it, but I found a shiny female Combee before finding a blue Ralts. Eventually, she sparkles, so I catch her and name her 11, or L for short. Now, we can head to the very Parisian Lumiose city where we meet Professor Sycamore and the whole gang of rivals, and you know what? Now that I'm looking at this and all of them, not a single one of these nerds is dressed well. This region makes a really big deal about fashion and gives us an entire cast of fashionably challenged rivals to look at for the entire game. They could really use some help from the sponsor of today's video, Into the AM. Let me thank them real quick. Look, life's too short to be wearing boring clothing that isn't comfortable. So if you're ready to level up your wardrobe like I did, then you need to head on over to intotheam.com and get yourself into some new threads. I wouldn't promote clothing if I didn't love it, and Into the AM is a brand I wore and loved before I even did YouTube. When they reached out to me and asked if they could send me a package, it was a no-brainer. I've been wearing these shirts non-stop for the past month or so, and the one I'm wearing right now is my absolute favorite design. It's Digital Space. You can find it on the website. Into the AM shirts are super soft, they have an incredible fit, which is hard to find, and they're shrink resistant, so they're not going to turn into crop tops after a few washes. I have so many t-shirts that are just crop tops now. Right now, you can grab bundles of 3 graphic tees for $60, or my new favorite, you can grab a bundle of 3 of the basic tees for $50, and my code VIVID saves you an extra 10% off at checkout. Seriously, these basic tees look great, they feel great, and they're perfect for wearing around the house, but they're also simple and stylish enough that you can dress them up and wear them out. They've been my go-to t-shirts for this summer. Into the AM also has really rad designs for their all-over tees. They have a great selection of stylish hoodies and jackets, and insanely comfortable joggers and loungewear shorts. The quality and feel is fantastic for everything I've tried on, and the fit is always super comfortable. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click my custom link in the description down below or in the pinned comment. Head on over to intotheam.com and elevate your wardrobe today. Also, make sure you use code VIVID for an extra 10% off at checkout. Thank you once again, Into the AM, for sponsoring this video and helping me continue to make content. Now, Professor McDreamy promptly challenges us to a battle with the 3 Kanto starters, and when I first started doing X and Y runs, I was scared of this fight, but now I just know it's ultra free. So we wreck his shit, and then he lets us pick another starter for free. I again have no intentions of shiny hunting this, but we got the first encounter Chespin, so there is hope. I pick Squirtle, who turns out to be female, so I name her Barb, and she's not shiny. Opt to the upside down with you. I mean the box. We are then forced to listen to Lysander ramble on for several minutes, and I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure this dude needs therapy. That, or he needs to be the head of a criminal organization with the incredibly lofty goal of murking the entire planet of life so it stays beautiful. He definitely needs one of those 2 things, but it's hard to tell which one right now. Now there's a ton to do before we get to the second badge, and I like to speedrun this part of the game, so here we go. We start with a couple evolutions as both Chespin and Riolu evolve into Quilladin and Lucario respectively. Then I hunt the shaking areas on Route 6 until I counter a purple Audino. I catch her and name her Joyce, which finally completes my rainbow team and locks me into having every single color of the rainbow on my team from this point on. This means I won't really be shiny hunting on a ton of routes moving forward because I want to save as many shinies as I can in case I lose anyone. Now I have to run around a mansion to catch Pokemon Jeff Bezos' dog, stop Meryl from evolving since I don't have another green Pokemon right now, fight a Snorlax, let 11 evolve into Curlia, and finally fight the 2 reject rivals of the group. It's a lot. After all of that, I end up in the Glittering Cave to save some scientist, and while here, I find some Team Flare goons. So I murk every single one of them, then smash a ton of rocks until I find a piece of old amber. I then run back and forth in this cave for about 3 hours encountering the shadow spawns until I find a beautiful shiny green Cubone. I catch her and name her Nancy, and thanks to using Thief on every single other Cubone I encounter encountered along the way, I already have the thick club for her, and that's thick with 2 C's. I then save right in front of this nice scientist and hand him my old amber, and after about 180 soft resets, I finally get a flying pink dino dragon thing. I name him Lucas, and I think we all can agree that Aerodactyl is a wildly better Pokemon than Audino, so he immediately replaces Joyce on my team. And bonus Jonas, since I have a green Cubone now, I can finally allow Robin to evolve into a Azumarill, who is the epitome of a yellow Pokemon. Now with all of that out of the way, it's time to take on the second gym. All of the gym trainers in Grant's gym are kind of a pushover, especially with Steve, who just demolishes every single... Okay, so that was 100% my fault, and it's a big blow to my team composition. Having a Steel type is great, and having a Pokemon as strong as Lucario this early was fantastic, but to lose him to a Lunatone? That's just upsetting. I should have switched out, I know that, but I really thought Force Palm would pick up the KO there. Alright, well, Robin gets to join the party sooner than expected. Rest in peace, Steve. I pummel through the rest of the gym and make my way to Grant, and I'll be locking in Robin and Nancy for this fight because of their type advantages. So, with all of the prep done, I challenge him. I lead off with Robin into his long neck, and on turn 1, she gets outsped and paralyzed by a Thunder Wave, but then manages to break through and hit a Rock Smash. Robin does not play around as she shatters Littlefoot here in one shot. Grant sends out his Sharptooth next, and not wanting to risk several paralysis or flinches, I switch into Nancy on a Soft Stomp. On the next turn, Chomper outspeeds and lands a Bite, taking me to under half, but I don't flinch, and a single Bone Meringue is enough to send this dino into extinction. That's badge number 2 for the Rainbow Crew. On Route 10 north of Silage City, I start hunting for a shiny Eevee since it would give me an incredible amount of options for basically every color of the rainbow later, but after an hour, I run into this little goober first. Galette is not nearly as useful as Eevee in terms of filling in color gaps, but Ghost Ground is a dope typing with 3 immunities, which is actually really solid for a hardcore Nuzlocke, so I catch them and name them Flare. They'll just take up real estate in the PC for now, but since all of its accents are bright green when it's shiny, they'll at least be a good backup green Pokemon to have. We arrive in Geosenge Town, and after a Team Flare member mysteriously disappears into this pile of rocks that is clearly not a secret evil base, Corinna shows up and ambushes us with her 2 less shiny Steves. It's absolutely appalling that she would show off like this when the loss of Steve is still fresh in our memory, so Nancy demolishes them with a couple of Bone Meringues, and then shortly after evolves into Marowak after murking another random trainer in a fit of rage. Nancy is out for blood. After this, Max gets to level 29 and learns Thunderbolt, so I use the Thunderstone I found earlier on her and finally let her evolve into Raichu, who is not just kind of orange, but actually very, very orange. I thought it important to wait since she would be locked out of having a solid electric type move until much later on in the game, but now she can really start contributing to the team. After making our way through Reflection Cave, we find ourselves in a massive tower for our first rival battle with Serena. The winner earns the ability to use Mega Evolution, and even though I'm not going to allow myself to Mega Evolve in this run, probably, I can't progress the story until I fight her, so we challenge her, and I lead off with Lucas into her Meowstic, and after a fake out flinch on turn 1, a couple of bites just drop her Psychic Cat. She sends out Braixen, which is an odd choice, and a single Rock Tomb just crashes her Firefox browser. Her last Pokemon is an Absol, so I switch into Nancy for her insane defense stat, and after tanking 2 bites, she obliterates the Emo Cat with a single Bone Meringue. Thick Club is really a godsend here. Now that I've proven myself by smashing Serena, I guess I have to prove myself again by fighting Corinna in her gym. Neat. I start by crushing her gym trainers, and once again, I'm not paying attention, and... Psych. You thought Lucas was gonna die here, but he does not. This Heracross did almost dumpster me though. While murking the trainers, 11 levels up to level 30 and evolves into Gardevoir, which is basically perfect timing. I lock in Lucas, Robin, and 11 for the fight, and then challenge Corinna. I lead off with Lucas into her Mienfoo, and after a fake out flinch on the first turn, I absolutely decimate this little karate rat with an aerial ace. She sends out her Machoke, and not wanting to take a Rock Tomb, I switch into Robin, who takes very little damage. The Machoke just keeps going for Leers from this point on, letting me take it out with an Aqua Tail after Corinna burns healing items on it. She sends out her ace Hawlucha, and since Robin has multiple defense drops from Leers, I switch back into Lucas, who takes a pretty soft power-up punch, and on the next turn we outpace and get off a massive aerial ace which drops the Lucha to the yellow. Flying Press does about 40% to me, but on the following turn Lucas just snipes the flying Luchador out of the sky with another aerial ace, winning us the 3rd gym badge. So now that we've proven ourselves twice in battle, we have to do it one more time by fighting fighting Corinna with one of her own Lucario, but this part is garbage, so we'll skip it. The only Lucario for me was Steve. Rest in peace once again, sick doggo. On Route 12, I am just kind of double checking the encounter table when I run into a shiny Miltank, which is something I was absolutely not hunting for. Still, blue shinies are not the most common, and honestly, she's probably a little more viable than 11 for the middle portion of the game, so I catch her and name her Susie. She'll be filling in the blue spot on our team for a while, so 11 can go fine-tune her psychic powers. There really is nothing to do in this section of the game except for back-to-back rival fights and gym battles. I go to the next gym where Serena is waiting for me again. I lead off with Robin and just drown her first two Pokemon with Aqua Tails, leaving Robin at about half health when she sends in her Braixien. So I switch into Nancy, and this was a mistake. Psybeam confuses Nancy as she comes in, and instead of hard switching there, I decided to roll the confusion dice for an attack, and of course I hit myself. This is already bad enough, but to make it worse, Braixien traps me in with Fire Spin, meaning I cannot switch out, taking residual damage, and I'm confused. A terrible combination. I should have switched into Lucas since I could have outsped and just one-shot the Braixien, but I was feeling Nancy because I love Marowak so much, but after hitting herself in confusion twice, she falls to the Demon Fox. I then make the switch I should have the first time and go out into Lucas and crush this fox with a single Rock Tomb. This is sad. Marowak is legitimately one of my favorite ground types, and she was also going to make the 5th gym a breeze. Rest easy, Nancy. Thankfully, I have Flayer in the PC, so they fill my green slot and we head straight to the 4th gym. I make it to the gym leader, whose name I can't seem to remember, with no problems, and I challenge him. I lead off with Lucas, and I'm going to cut the suspense here a little bit. 3 flies is enough to just wipe his entire team of grass Pokemon out. I mean, I feel embarrassed for this dude, but hopefully he doesn't use his massive scissors on me. With the 4th badge, I now have to save the power plant to restore power to all of Kalos, or at least the inner circle of Lumiose City. This part of the game is mondo boring, but thankfully, you don't have to watch it. Thank you, next. While making our way to the 5th gym, I decide to finally let Hopper evolve. I was a little torn because, as you can see, he's no longer primarily red, so I think I have to count him as a green Pokemon moving forward, which means it's back to one of the very first routes, Route 5, to hunt for the elusive red panda. This hunt takes me much longer than I expected, but eventually Pancham sparkles, so I catch him and name him Billy. After that, I catch a throwaway dark type because this panda's evolution mechanic is weird, and I evolve him into the fierce Pangoro, who will be the Red Ranger of the team from here on out. With the team reorganized, I'm ready to take on the 5th gym. For this fight, I lock in Lucas, Flayer, and Billy. So with all of the prep out of the way, I challenge Clement. I lead off with Lucas on the first turn, and he just outspeeds and one-shots Clement's flying Pikachu with a Rock Tomb. Magneton is out next, so I switch into Flayer predicting an electric move, but it just goes for electric terrain instead, which is fantastic since Flayer is immune to electric attacks and just gets in for free. On the next turn, Magneton misses a Mirror Shot, and Flayer drops them to their Sturdy with Magnitude. After a healing turn, they are dropped to the yellow with another lower level Magnitude, and then Flayer just demagnetizes the whole Pokemon on the next turn with a Nightshade after dodging another Mirror Shot. Heliolisk comes out next, so I pivot into Billy to take a predicted Grass Knot as the electric terrain fades. On the next turn, Billy uses Karate Chop but gets dropped to 14 HP from a Thunderbolt, and Chop leaves the lizard in low yellow. I switch into Flayer for free on a Thunderbolt, and on the next turn, Grass Knot leaves them at just 15 HP as I low roll for Magnitude 6, taking Heliolisk to right around half health. I'm in a rough spot, so I switch back into Lucas knowing he will take a Grass Knot, and I just have to hope he is fast enough to outspeed and strong enough to one-shot. The Grass Knot does a light tap, and I just lock into Rock Tomb. On the next turn, I outspeed, and it's enough to grab the kill. Yikes, that was super close to a wipe, and to think I only won because I locked in a Pokemon that was weak to this gym leader just because it was my only fast Pokemon. After this battle, I took a breather because the thought of resetting this run at this point had me super anxious. After we grab the 5th badge, before we can continue out on our journey, we have to speak with Lysander again, and the professor seems to be this dude's hype man, but I can just tell he still needs therapy. Lysander, just go talk to someone. Life can be so much better than this. You don't have to destroy the entire planet. You do not have to murk all life. You just need to heal. As we head out to Route 14 to make our way to the next gym, we run into Serena, and you guessed it, she wants to fight again. Even though she stole Nancy from us last time, my team has just gotten progressively better, and outside of evolving her Braixien into Delphox, hers is mostly the same. This time, I let Lucas decimate her Meowstic and Delphox, and I have Billy switch in to obliterate her Absol. It's a really easy fight. On Route 14, I have a pretty interesting realization that leads me to hunt for a Carablast. The hunt only takes around an hour, and then this little weird bug shines. I've never even used this thing, but she has a really solid purpose right now, so I catch her and name her Erica. I have to catch a throwaway Shelmet to evolve her, so I do that, then immediately evolve her to Escavalier. And would you look at that? She's got some pink and magenta accents, which means she can take the violet slot on my team according to my rules. Just in time for the fairy gym too, very convenient. With a slightly modified team, we warp through the gym until we make our way to Valerie, and I'm locking in Flare, Susie, and Erica for this battle. And with Erica now on the team, I'm super confident about this one, so we challenge her. I lead off with Flare into her Mawile, and on the first turn I take a crunch that I did not remember this thing having for over half my health. Not a strong start. Flare cracks back with a magnitude 8, dropping the Mawile to just a sliver of health. Knowing Val will heal, I magnitude again, get another 8, and drop it to the red again. Not wanting to risk her not healing for a second turn in a row, I switch into Erica, and she just heals. I probably should have looked up how many healing items she had. Mawile goes for a crunch on the next turn, but this time it does close to nothing since Erica has an insane defense stat. 2 Iron Heads are enough to knock Mawile out while staying relatively healthy from leftovers recovery. Mr. Mime comes out next and sets up a Reflect on the first turn, but Erica still chunks this clown for around 75% of its HP, even with the Reflect boost. Another Iron Head just buries the clown, forcing Val to send out her ace, Sylveon. I stay in and go for an Iron Head, but the Fairy Fox charms me, cutting my attack in half. And with the boost from Reflect, Erica just doesn't do any damage. And to top it off, my Iron Head triggers Cute Charm, and Attraction is one of the most garbage RNG mechanics in the game. So I switch into Susie, who takes an astonishing amount of damage from a Dazzling Gleam. I stay in Milk Drink knowing I'll outspeed, and I can't do this forever, but I only need one turn for Reflect to wear off. I pivot back into Erica on the next turn, taking essentially nothing from a D-Gleam, then I just chip away at the fairy's health with Iron Head while it does nothing besides use Charm. And that is badge 6 in the bag. Now, all we have to do is save a Pokeball factory, let Flare evolve into Golurk, clear out a cold cave, and absolutely toss Serena again, and we're already at the 7th gym. Olympia honestly has a pretty soft team for her to be the 7th gym leader, and I kind of have the perfect answers to her. So I lock in Billy, Max, and Erica and challenge her. I lead off with Billy and instantly realize I meant to lead off with Max since she just leads with Sigilith, but it's fine, we'll make do. Billy goes for a crunch on turn 1 as the Aztec bird just sets up a Reflect. Crunch still manages to hit for over half, and on the next turn I switch into Max, who takes very little from an Air Slash and KOs it on the next turn with a Thunderbolt. Olympia sends out her Slowking, and I decide to just stay in, and Max takes it out with 2 Thunderbolts, but then falls asleep to a Yawn. She sends out her Ace Meowstic, so I switch my Sleeping Electric Rat out into Billy, who takes a soft Fake Out. On the next turn, Billy takes a soft Shadow Ball, then absolutely murks Meowstic with a couple of crunches, winning me the 7th badge, and as is typical in Pokemon games after the 7th badge, the entire story of the game comes to a head. But don't worry, we'll skip most of it. We make our way to Lysander at his lab, and he's still rambling on about the world and how to preserve beauty he needs to destroy the entire planet, so we murk him. We then have to navigate through his lab and end up in a position to save the entire planet by pressing the blue button, but the goon who gives us the option fakes us out and decides to destroy the planet anyway. Casual. The good news is we get to see this really sick cutscene, so, you know, silver linings. And then we make our way back to Geosenge Town, where the Team Flare member mysteriously disappeared into a rock, and surprise, it's an evil secret lair. We have to fight Lysander a second time, but we'll skip this one and go straight to the one that matters. So there I am, close to the core of the earth, at the bottom of this evil lair, and I encounter this massive flying demon who has the power to siphon all of the life from the world. And then I tame it in less than 30 seconds by throwing a magical purple ball at it. This enrages Lysander, who decides to challenge me for a 3rd time in the past 20 minutes. Only this time, he's doing his best Doc Ock impression, so here we go. I forget once again in this run to change my lead Pokemon, so I lead off with Max into Lysander's Mienshao and immediately have to pivot into Robin, who takes about 20% from a high jump kick. Another HJK on the following turn drops her to just above half of her health, and a Play Rough drops this Karate Weasel. Pyroar comes out next, so I switch into Lucas, taking a resisted Hyper Voice, and on the next turn just bury this Fire Lion under a pile of rocks, forcing in Haunch Crow. Predictably, I also bury in this thing under a pile of rocks, knocking it out, and bringing out Lysander's ace, Gyarados. Knowing this flying sea serpent is about to Mega Evolve into an oversized shrimp, I switch into Hopper, who tanks an Aqua Tail. On the next turn, Hopper eats an Outrage and connects with a Leech Seed to put this monster on a timer while giving my team some chip recovery. A Spiky Shield on the next turn protects Hopper and helps chip the Demon Shrimp down, and we luck into this thing only getting a 2-turn Outrage outrage, so it gets confused at the end of the turn. With the Leech Seed recovery putting my health above half, I stay in and lock into Seed Bomb. The Satan Minnow hits itself in confusion, and Seed Bomb connects, signing its death certificate. This fight is normally pretty intimidating, but the Rainbow crew handled it insanely well. With Lysander defeated for the final time, he goes for a Hail Mary and I guess canonically unalives himself. That's ultra dark, and I only learned about it recently. Big yikes. But hey, we saved the world, so now I can get back to what's really important: gym badges and the Pokemon League, baby. Screw the entire planet. All gas, no brakes. Let's get that last badge, gamers. Well, on my way to the next gym, Professor Dreamy calls me and he wants to square up again, but all of his mons are underleveled and it's kind of a slaughter. Then I have to fight all of the reject rivals on what appears to be a rope bridge, and since these are the reject rivals, they all blow. I crush the girl who has a crush on me, and then in the fight against the dancing rival, he brings in his Roserade on Hopper, so assuming this flower will go for a poison type attack, since it's a poison grass type, I switch into Lucas. It does not go for a poison type attack, it goes for Petal Dance, gets a crit, and KOs Lucas. I swear to God this fight is cursed. This is 2 or 3 Kalos runs in a row that I have lost someone here. I murder the rest of his team for revenge, then absolutely demolish the nerdy rival. But the damage is done. Lucas was such a strong Pokemon and he carried me through a lot of this journey, so this is particularly sad. I also wanted to use him in the final battle versus the champion and surprise Mega Evolve him for the very first time, but the best laid plans of mice and men, you know? I decided to just use Erica as my violet/purple/pink Pokemon for the 8th gym, which means I can just rush through it. I lock in Erica, Billy, and Susie for this battle and just challenge Wolfric. I lead off with Erica into his Barack Obama Snow, and on turn 1 this Christmas tree hits me with an Ice Beam that freezes. But my team is too hot, baby, so I get the first turn Thaw and drop the Yeti into the red with an X Scissor. Wolf spends the next few turns burning through his potions, but eventually a final X Scissor fells the Yeti, bringing in Avalugg. Ice Table has a monstrous defense stat, but so does Erica, so I stay in and get off 2 Iron Heads while tanking crunches, but the second one leaves the reject IKEA furniture with a sliver of health, and somehow this actual Glacier moves faster than my armored bug. So I'm forced to pivot into Billy, who snacks on a crunch, and on the next turn he outpaces and breaks the table with a crunch of his own. Wolf is down to just Cryogonal, and on its first turn out, it just sets up Hail, letting Billy shatter it for free with a Hammer Arm, winning me the 8th badge. This fight is normally at least kind of scary since ice types are so good offensively, and I'm almost always just using a single type of Pokemon, but with a diverse team, this battle was just not scary at all. The 7th and 8th gym leader in Kalos are a little sus. Now before I head to Victory Road, which I will hereby refer to as Rainbow Road, I need to make some changes to the team. I've kept a lot of the same Pokemon to have a complete rainbow throughout most of this run, but it's time to shake up the colors a bit. First, 11 has completed her training in the sensory deprivation tank and will be replacing Susie as the blue Pokemon on my team. Susie has been good as a generically bulky Pokemon I can use for almost any fight, but 11 offers us much better type coverage for the league. Now, none of the current green Pokemon I have are very good for the Elite Four or Champion, and I have this same problem with my purple slot. So I shiny hunt on Route 21, and this single hunt took close to a full 6-hour workday. But finally, I find a slightly different colored Scyther that I catch and name Mike. I also got ultra lucky and caught a Scyther with Technician, and while he was always going to be good, this will make him so much better once I evolve him. I then head to Azure Bay, which is one of those places you don't even have to look at to make it through the main game, and I hunt for his shiny Slowpoke, which I find pretty quickly. I catch him and name him Will. Then, back to back, I evolve them into Scissor and Slowbro respectively. Mike will fill the green slot on my team and Will the purple. They might be newcomers, but I think they give me much stronger options than I currently have for those slots. Now I have to trek through Rainbow Road, and the only thing of note here is that Serena shows up one final time to challenge us. I lead off with Billy into her Meowstic, and after taking a pretty strong disarming voice, I just rip her Psychic Cat to shreds with a crunch. She sends in Altaria, and knowing this Pokemon has Dazzling Gleam, I switch into 11, who eats up the hit with her good special defense stat and takes the Cloudbird Dragon out over the next few turns with Moon Blasts. Serena sends in her starter Delphox, so I pivot into Will, who actually takes way more than I anticipated from a Shadow Ball. I stay in and for some reason click Disable. I'm not sure why I made this play in the moment, but it's the play I made. I managed to live the next Shadow Ball with only 17 HP and disable the attack, but this doesn't really mean much for me since 11 still isn't a great answer to the Fox Switch. I decide to pivot into Robin, who takes a hard Psychic and then manages to live another and grab the KO with a Waterfall. A crit here would have been devastating, but we dodged it. Jolteon comes out, and I don't have a great answer to this either. I probably should have kept Flare on the team specifically for this fight since he checks basically all of the Pokemon I'm struggling dealing with right now. I switch Robin out for Mike taking a discharge, and on the next turn, I take another and roost up for some health. Then on the following turn, I take a third discharge and slow U-turn into 11, chunking the Shocky Fox thing. On the next turn, 11 takes a discharge to under half health and gets paralyzed, but she manages to break through and uses her psychic powers to murk Jolteon. Absol is Serena's last Pokemon, and 11 is too weak to stay in, so I switch into Billy, and the Absol Night Slashes. Now, the only thing that ruins me is a critical hit slash, but instead Serena just decides to set up a Swords Dance, and a single Brick Break drops the emo Cat Fox thing. You know, I really have no clue what animal Absol's design is referencing, but we'll go with Fox Cat, same as the evolutions. With that, we've smashed Serena for the last time, and we are in the end game now. I do some final preparations in terms of collecting items and tweaking movesets, and this is the team I've come up with for the Pokemon League. I decide to break the rules I've been using for the entire run and just use the box legendary to solo the rest of the game. Nah, okay, just kidding. I just needed something in this slot so I could drag over the rest of my team for dramatic and visual effect. I'll be using Billy, Max, Robin, Mike, 11, and Will as my final team. If you're observant, you'll also notice a Mamoswine and a Murkrow in the PC, but I never once used them, so I decided not to include their shiny hunts. The Murkrow was even named Mike, but since I didn't use it, I just doubled up on the name. Anyway, I think this team will give me the best odds of beating the Elite Four because it gives me such a diverse cast of offense, bulk, and coverage to work with. So with all of that out of the way, we head into the league for the final challenge of the game. I decided to challenge Siebold first because theoretically he should be the easiest to beat. Also, not theoretically, very objectively, his room is garbage. Imagine how wet your socks would get in this room. This guy is guaranteed to be a criminal. I lead off with Max into his Klotzer, and a single Thunderbolt is enough to fry this little shrimp. He surprisingly sends out his Gyarados next, and surprise, it does not live a Thunderbolt. He sends out his Ace Barbicle next, and I just assume Grassnot is a one-shot here, but this walking B-film horror movie monster lives with a sliver of health and gets off an incredibly hard-hitting Stone Edge. Max lives, but a crit would have ended her here. A few more Thunderbolts picks this Nightmare on Wet Sock Street off after Siebold just wastes all of his healing items on it. His final Pokemon is Starmie, and since I haven't done any intentional EV training, I'm not confident I will outspeed or one-shot, so I switch into Will, who takes nothing from a Surf. I stay in on the next turn, and Starmie sets up a light screen as I fish for a burn with Scald. I get the burn, which is great since now this menace is on a clock. Starmie uses Dazzling Gleam on the next turn as I get more chip damage in with Scald, and then I decide to use Disable, stopping the Starmie from going for Gleam anymore. So now Will resists all of its offensive moves, but more importantly, it gives me an opening to switch into Billy on Psychic and take the star out with a Crunch. For some reason, I thought Siebold still had a healing item here, so I wanted to make sure he couldn't hit Billy for super effective damage since I knew Billy would be able to one-shot, but instead Crunch was just massive overkill because the star was already in low red. I decide to take on Wikstrom next, and this is the Elite Four member who pushed me to include Will on the team in the first place, because for some reason, Slowbro can learn Flamethrower. I'm sure the reason is it's a Gen 1 Pokemon and they just didn't have the best concept of design back then, but whatever, we'll take it because it's a big dub for us here. I lead off with Will into Wiki's Klefki, and then two Flamethrowers take it out while it just sets up spikes. Wikstrom then does exactly what I predicted him to and goes out into Scizor, the main reason I added Will to the team. This Pokemon looked like it could be really devastating to me, but thanks to his stellar defense stat, Will eats an X-Scissor and then just melts the bug with another Flamethrower. Probopass is out next, and this Pokemon has Discharge, so I'm forced to switch here. I pivot into Mike, who takes a Discharge and gets paralyzed, which is probably actually ideal since it makes me slower. On the next turn, the Mustache Rock outspeeds and lands a critical hit Power Gem that drops Mike to the red, but he manages to break through paralysis and U-turns into Billy, who just dismantles this abomination on the next turn with a single Hammer Arm. Wikstrom sends out his Ace Aegislash, and I probably should have predicted the King Shield, but I decided to go for a Crunch anyway. Surprise, it went for a King Shield, harshly lowering Billy's attack. I stay in thinking it should still be an easy kill, but Aegislash outspeeds, goes into Blade form, and lands a Secret Sword, dropping Billy to just 9 HP. A follow-up Crunch doesn't even get the kill, meaning I'm in a particularly precarious position. I switch into Robin, the last Pokemon I had locked in for this fight, since I can only use 4 Pokemon on any single Elite Four member, and she comes in as Aegislash is healed with a full restore. Not good. I attack with Waterfall on the first turn, but once again, King Shield protects this knockoff sword, and my attack stat is lowered, putting me in a terrible spot. On the next turn, Aegislash goes to Blade form and lands a critical hit Iron Head for most of my HP. Then Robin doesn't flinch and connects a critical hit Waterfall for the KO. What a clutch crit. We needed a miracle to make it out of this fight because I wildly underestimated how strong Aegislash was against my team. Just look at how decimated my team is after this battle. All 4 of the Pokemon that I locked in were yellow or lower. Okay, so miraculously, 2 down, 2 to go. I challenge Drasna next, and once again lead off with Will into her Dragalge. Will tanks a Thunderbolt on the first turn and connects with a Psyshock, leaving this piece of dirty kelp in low yellow. Drasna spams full restores while I keep Psychic Blasting away, but once she's out of healing items, she lands a critical hit Thunderbolt that would have 100% killed Will if he wasn't holding leftovers. A final Psyshock kills the sentient seaweed and brings out Altaria. I switch into 11 since Will barely has any HP left, and she gets in for free on a Dragon Pulse. 2 Moonblasts are enough to take the Cloudbird out while it just misses a Sing. Her ace Noivern comes out next, and on the first turn it just removes half of 11's HP with a Super Fang, and Moonblast drops it to what has to be only 2 health. The Bat Dragon connects an Air Slash on the next turn and gets the flinch, leaving 11 in low red and out of commission. I switch into Mike, who takes the Air Slash well, and a priority Bullet Punch on the next turn outspeeds and murks the Bat. Her final Pokemon is a Druddigon, so I roost on the first turn to get some health back as it goes for revenge, then U-turn out into Robin on the next turn. She manages to outpace, and a single Play Rough is enough to defang her last dragon. These battles have honestly been much closer than normal, and I really think no intentional EV training plus team limits is making them that way. But I have a really good idea for my next Kalos run that I think will make this challenge actually difficult. Alright, and with those 3 battles out of the way, it is final Elite 4 member time. But first, Malva's room is actually criminal. Siebold's room just has criminal energy. Malva's room actually has to be an OSHA violation. You're telling me the entire room is on fire and there are massive pillars of flame just bursting out of the floor and this is acceptable? Look, I am literally in the fire. I should be ultra dead here. Which brings me to my next point. Kalos protagonists are metahumans confirmed. Anyway, I challenge Malva and lead off with Robin into her Pyroar, and on the first turn, it could wild charge me, which I should always live, but instead, it just goes for a flamethrower, doing very little, and then Robin gets off a waterfall. This is just a very strange line of play. It's obviously deaded as f now, but it could have done so much more damage. Really odd play. She sends in Talonflame, so I leave in Robin, and she tanks a Brave Bird, then drowns another soul with another waterfall. The waterfall triggers the bird's flame body, but Robin has done enough already. Malva sends in her Fire Tortoise, so I switch into Will, who just hard walls it. We actually outspeed something with our Pokemon whose entire shtick is being slow, and Scald drops it to a sliver while it sets up curses. We do the full restore dance for a few turns, but eventually we just drown it with Scalds. Malva's last Pokemon is arguably her scariest, Chandelure. Playing it safe, I switch into Billy expecting a Shadow Ball, and I call it right, so I get in for not much damage. On the next turn, I should always live and one-shot with a Crunch, but instead of attacking, these dollar store candles go for Confuse Ray, and Billy hits himself in confusion, which is infuriating. I switch back into Will, predicting a flamethrower, but again, Malva plays bafflingly dumb and uses Confide to lower my special attack. I had a physical attacker and I am so confused. I double into Billy, and of course, another Confuse Ray. On the next turn, we have to risk it for the biscuit, and this degenerate already went for Confide once, so she might do it again, and she does, lowering Billy's special attack as he breaks through confusion and one-shots with a Crunch, cleaning up the last Elite 4 member and sending me to the champion battle. Diantha's team is actually very strong, but we've made it this far deathless, and my team was essentially handcrafted for this fight, so I'm feeling good about it. I challenge her and lead off with Max into her Hawlucha, and on turn 1, Max outpaces and lands a Thunderbolt for a one-shot. Diantha sends in her Sharptooth, which is a massive problem, so I switch into the physically bulky Will and actually manage to dodge a Head Smash, which is big game. On the next turn, we take a strong Crunch to under half and land a Scald that snags the burn, leaving the Dino in the red after Rocky Helmet, Scald, and burn damage. Knowing a full restore is coming, I stay in and Scald again, which once again snags a burn. With the attack drop from the burn, I know I'll live another Crunch, so I have Will stay in and slack off for health, healing up to over half, and the Sharptooth just falls to its own burn damage. She sends in her Long Neck next, so I switch into Max on a light screen and use Nuzzle to paralyze the Plant Eater as it sets up a Reflect. On the next turn, I switch into Mike, who takes an incredibly soft Blizzard and dodges the freeze. A Bullet Punch almost drops the Long Neck through Reflect as Mike takes a pretty hard Thunder, and after a full restore, another Bullet Punch finishes the job after the Reflect drops. Goodra is next, so I switch into Robin, who absolutely snacks on a Fire Blast, and then a single play Rough is enough to write a really short obituary for the Snot Dragon. Her Ghost Pumpkin comes out, so I switch into Billy as it goes for Trick or Treat, giving him the Ghost type. I am now neutral to Ghost type attacks instead of resisting them, as I'm a dark fighting Ghost type, but Billy will always live one hit, so we stay in, take a Phantom Force, and smash the pumpkin with Crunch, leaving only Gardevoir next. This is Diantha's ace, and the Pokemon she will Mega Evolve, so I switch into Mike, knowing this Pokemon would obliterate Billy, and we chew through a Moonblast. I lock into Bullet Punch, and on the next turn, we outspeed with our priority move, and one-shot this Evil 11 clone, winning us the battle and the run. I have to say, keeping a team of Rainbow Pokemon made this a little more hectic than it might have looked at first, because I had to look up each route as I was playing, figure out what Pokemon I can use based on their shiny forms, and determine which routes I absolutely had to save. The hardest shinies to come by for the entire run were Orange and Red, without a doubt. In fact, Max was the only Orange Pokemon I caught all game, and there were only a few more options I could fall back on if she went down, and some of them wouldn't have been until much later, meaning if Max died early in the run, I had to reset. So that dynamic made this super interesting for me. As always, I love the Kalos region, and these challenges are just a blast to make, so expect more random one-offs sprinkled in between the shiny Monotype runs. Thank you so much for the support, and please let me know who you thought the MVP was in the comment section down below. Once again, if you feel like helping me hit 50K for my birthday, please subscribe and leave a like. It would help out so much, and also, please remember, if you can, I would love if you donated to the Trevor Project. Happy late Pride. That's all I have for you today, so I am kind of done here and I have to leave. Bye.